A car went over an embankment and found the 3 women when they were trying to pull the car back up onto the road.
Oh.
She was seen getting in his truck, and then she's never heard of again. So somebody sees her get into his truck, and it actually ended up, I think, being his girlfriend's truck.
His girlfriend at the time?
At the time,
okay.
Yeah. Because his truck was red, and I think it was either his brother had a truck or his girlfriend had a truck. She's seen getting into a truck with Ridgway. She's
They
never
identified Ridgway?
Later on, when people are being questioned, they identify it.
Okay.
Identify seeing him, recognizing him because he was a regular on the strip.
Oh.
The first victim directly linked to Ridgway is Marie Malvar. She was 18. She was strolling for work. Her boyfriend was nearby. He drives up, Ridgway does. She gets in the truck, and the boyfriend tries to tail Ridgway, but loses him in traffic. So then she doesn't show up for a few days. And her dad and her boyfriend start searching the neighborhoods around where the boyfriend lost the tail, and find his truck parked in front of his house. And they call the police. So, funny thing from the documentary that I had not read anywhere. He's questioned. Police come to the door. It's a fucking high school friend.
The detective?
Yeah, the police that shows up to ask him if he knows anything about Marie is from a buddy from his high school.
Oh.
And he doesn't ask that much. And Ridgway's just standing there because she had really fucked up his arms. She fought back. And he recalls that in some of the footage that I watched. He talks about that. He was pissed off because she tried to escape, and at one point almost did escape, and really fucked up his arm. So the buddy shows up, his high school friend shows up, is questioning him, and he's leaning on the fence, trying to cover up his arm.
Wow.
And he's like, oh yeah, I've just been putting in new fencing and, kind of got scratched up a little bit here. And the guy doesn't really do anything. He questions him a little bit. Ridgway doesn't, really have any answers for him. It says he doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't know her, and he leaves. Yeah. Later on, Ridgway, to cover up the scratches and all the, I think bite marks, pours battery acid on his arm to try to, make it look like a wound. To cover that up. Yeah. And then he dumps her body. Can't remember where he dumped it. He tries to go find it again, and then he realizes that a coworker, from the truck factory lives in that area. He worries that they might have seen him driving around, so he just leaves it. He goes and takes her ID and dumps it at the airport. Just drops it so that it looks like she was trying to catch a flight out of town.
Oh.
Yeah. And then one of the more disturbing things from the documentary, and one of the things that I thought was disturbing as well, was when they found the body of Carol Christensen. She was fully clothed. She was posed with garbage from his house. So, he had placed 2 dead fish on her neck and chest, an empty bottle of wine on her stomach with her hands on top of it, and then sausage meat on the back of her hands. And then there was a bag over her head. And when he's questioned about it, he actually says that he didn't mean to kill her. So they went back to his house and they were engaging in sex. And she had to get to her next shift at the bar where she worked. And he didn't like that she didn't have time for him. So he killed her.
And then
but he hadn't meant to. And then posed her.
Now he's just bored. And it's probably also, with all the run-ins, he's basically like, now I'm just going to fuck with the cops.
Pretty much. I think pretty much that sums it up. And he didn't mean to do it. He actually liked her. And he said that in the documentary, when they were questioning him in that footage, he says that he liked her, that he didn't mean to kill her. It was just once she said, I've got to hurry up and go, he flipped the fuck out.
Yeah.
So then, in May of 1983, they find 6 more women near an area where his third wife and he would end up, camping. And Then in October, Ted Bundy contacts the task force and says, hey, I'm going to do a profile for you guys and I can help you catch this guy. Okay. I'm going to put my name out there and be the savior to help you guys because you guys can't fucking figure it out.
No.
So he does a profile and it's pretty accurate. Mm-hmm. The FBI had already done a profile for them and they were pretty accurate too, but it was just like basic, like this is a white male. He's, in his mid 30s or something. Mm-hmm. He maybe has mommy issues. Like who doesn't that fit?
Yeah.
Ted Bundy does a profile. It's pretty accurate too. But he also suggests if you find another body, just leave it and observe it. And eventually he's going to come back to it because he wants to come back to his prize.
Yeah.
They can't obviously do that. Obviously they cannot leave a body.
No.
They have an obligation to fulfill their job. But I thought that was very interesting that he just had to place himself in part of this story.
Yeah, in the spotlight. He's taking his thunder.
Right.
Especially in Washington.
Yeah, for sure. Because, Bundy is known for some things in Washington, but what really got him caught was what he did in Florida.
Yeah.
So then here's Ridgway doing more, killing more, and getting this notoriety. And he couldn't have it. Bundy just couldn't have it. After that, they find some remains in Oregon of like partial remains from 2 bodies. So Ridgway decided he was going to throw off detectives again and goes on a camping trip with his son, piles in the camping gear and the bikes and whatever they need and the 2 bodies and they book it down to Oregon and go on a boys' weekend.
Did they say what part of Oregon or where it was? Or?
I think it was outside of Portland.
Yeah, because that's a long trip.
like 3.5, 4 hours. I'm thinking at that point, you can get down there, 3 hours, 20 minutes now, more or less if you're speeding.
What?
What?
Never do that.
We always drive the speed limit. We do not recommend that you go over the speed limit. No. Never. I never go 85. Right. So in 87, in 84, he's arrested for soliciting an undercover cop. He agrees to a polygraph test. And at the time they say he passes, but he actually failed it. Whoever read it wrong, didn't know what the hell they were doing. And again, close call, but no dice. They don't have anything. In 1986, his third wife moves in with him, not realizing that 20 to 30 women had been killed in his house.
Oh.
Yeah. He does go on to say that he had a horrible time with her initially living there because he knew that he had done wrong things and there she was sleeping in that same bed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In 1986, the best composite sketch is released. And it does look like him. I think the nose is off, but it's a pretty good representation of him. And by that time, 36 bodies had been found.
Jesus.
He's under surveillance at this point.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So then in 87, he's held on suspicion. They think about things enough and get enough, things pieced together that he's made the short list and they take him in. They get DNA samples. They take saliva. There's just nothing that they can do with it though.
And you said this was in 87?
87. Yes. Yeah. So they didn't, DNA was a thing. It had been discovered, but you had to have such a large sample and there were no databases and there were no processing places.
Yeah.
It was known of, but couldn't be used.
Yeah.
So they do have pisters. Remember Kimmy Kai Pister who went missing? The boyfriend saw her get into the green truck.
Yeah.
He does go in and identify him, but they have nothing. They search his house. They, they get a search warrant. They search his house. They take the DNA. There's no evidence anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They also take his wife, she's then a girlfriend, but, becomes his wife later on, from her work, and they question her. And she's just kind of, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything about this. And because they don't find any evidence, basically they,
have to let him go.
They have to let him go. They get married in 1988 and 6 weeks. 6 weeks after they get married, and she's just ecstatic and loves him, and he says he loves her. They have this wedding in the backyard of one of their neighbors' yards, and the neighborhood's trying to rally, and just he's been wrongfully accused and he's being watched. Nobody believes it. So the neighborhood kind of throws him a wedding, and I mean, she's just enamored of him and thinks he's the perfect gentleman. 6 weeks after they're married, he kills somebody.
Oh, wow.
And
that didn't last long.
No, it sure did not. And that just kind of trickles off. So they still find some more bodies. But after about 87, 88, the task force is disbanded. They are disbanded. They can't find anything that links really heavily to anybody. And it goes quiet. And then eventually DNA, technology being what it is, they are able to process from a data bank, and he comes back as linked to the 4 women who had DNA left on them. And that's in 2001. In November, on the 30th, they go to his work, they arrest him, and he is initially booked on the charges for the 4 women, because they can't link him to anything else.
Yeah.
In cooperation, they agree not to seek the death penalty if he agrees to the charges of the 48 women that they believe are his responsibility. And he agrees. And
of course, because 48 is less than what he said. 70, he's like, oh, that's all I got? 48?
No, he says, he openly, after they're like, if we don't seek the death penalty, will you admit to these? He's like, yeah, I will show you where I've buried these women.
Oh,
I will
Jesus.
take you everywhere. I will give you everything.
Field trip.
Just want to talk. It really is a field trip. They show footage of him getting out of the vans, and he needs help, crossing over some of these areas, because he's in the shackles. The shackles, the ones that are like around your hip and your hands are cuffed to the either side.
Of course.
So they're guiding him around in these woods, and he's like, oh, thank you for your help. And, are you having a great time? I don't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that, but he's so polite and loves it. Loves every minute of it. He's like, oh, yeah, and over here is where I did this.
He's still seeking approval.
And he really wants to share this.
Yeah.
So he confesses to 70. And then in 2003, he's sentenced to life in prison without parole for 48. One more comes into play. They find a skull near the remains of where Marie Malvar was found. That's his 49th charge. That was 2011. So as of 2011, there are still bodies. At one point, he was in solitary confinement in Washington State, and I don't know, his psychological evaluations were like, oh, he's sad. He's not in general population, and we can't release him in general population. So what if we move him to another maximum security prison someplace else, and he can mix and mingle, and he won't be depressed because he needs to be with people. And they tried that. They move him to a maximum security prison in Colorado. It lasted about a year, because once people got wind of it, they started protesting and saying, get him the hell out of our state.
Yeah.
We don't want him here.
Well, that's good.
So they bring him back, and they say it's because, they need easy accessibility for any further pending investigations. But
now that they fucked up.
They knew they fucked up.
Yeah.
So after that, then in 2011, they find the 49th victim that they can actually charge him with. And to this day, he's in Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla. Yeah.
I am speechless. That guy, Not even to rot in jail is even good for him.